Hi, and welcome back to Beyond the Badge. I'm Chief Travis Griffith, and today I have a very special guest. His name is Nick Hanna. He is the current sheriff of Tom Green County, and he's been a long-term Texas Ranger here throughout this West Texas region. Welcome.
Thank you, Chief. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, it's always good to have you, and you've had a very unique career.
Well, some of it's been unexpected. Some of it has been fun. Some of it's been difficult. But overall, I think unique is a good classification of it. I know it's been fulfilling, and I've loved, for the most part, I've loved every minute of it. So appreciate you guys having me here today.
Yeah, so you have had the experience of being in charge of some major incidents in Texas. You as a Texas Ranger, some people don't understand that you investigate like elected officials.
Yes, the Rangers, they have a lot of duties, and one of them is investigating elected officials or officer involved shootings, public integrity crime, along with the crime that happens unfortunately all too often in our communities, such as sexual assault, homicide, organized crime, those kind of things. And so really one of the things that is challenging was the wide variety of offenses and crimes and even locations that you were put in. But that's also part of what makes the job challenging and enjoyable.
And that right there is what do you think you said makes it enjoyable? What part did you think that you took away from, like, if you're just going to succinctly put into that totality of things, what do you think is the thing that stood out to you?
Um, well, it's a broad question.
Mhm.
So, what stood out to me is that as long as you kept the main thing, and focused on conducting yourself with integrity, uh, adhering to a strong work ethic, um, persevering on your investigations that are difficult and sometimes unpopular. But as long as you kind of kept your basic tenets and kept faith in our Lord, then things would always seem to work out. I think we often overestimate our fear of failure so much that we don't try to do some things when really and truly it's okay to tackle something. And the fact that if it does or does not work out is almost irrelevant, because it seems like to me that seems like they always work out one way or the other.
So is that one way of putting that, is to say that one of the things that has stood out to you is being able to stay grounded in who you are as an individual and outside of your career, and who you are in your faith and family?
I think so. I think you don't look at yourself at the lens of you're anybody special or important. I think you look at yourself as a servant, and that I've been given this yoke, and I have to carry it. It's my responsibility, because if I don't, somebody else is going to have to step up. And I've often felt like these things fell into my path, whether it's a big investigation, or a difficult crime that we had to solve, or even running for public office in the office of sheriff. Those things are, really, we pray about, and you feel like kind of get laid in your path. And so it's all part of living here on earth and being a productive citizen, and
Yeah.
doing what you can.
Well, and we appreciate that. Let's take it back. Let's go back to your high school years. What got you into law enforcement? What was your path like?
I really thought in high school that I would be in business, because my family owned a small business, and that seemed the natural segue. But then I also had some friends, a good friend of mine, who later became also a Texas Ranger, and he's the sheriff in Denton County. He went to work for the Highway Patrol, Texas Highway Patrol. And so that rode with him a time or two, and it was just so interesting. So that, along with, I had an incident as a young man, probably 15 or 16, in which myself and another friend were driving home late one night. It's 12:30, 12:45 in the morning. We were not supposed to be out. Nothing good happens after midnight. And we happened upon a traffic accident involving one of my friends, one of my high school friends. And it was a fatality, and alcohol was involved. And I just remember thinking to myself profoundly, as if it happened yesterday, I wish that a policeman or a trooper or a deputy sheriff would have stopped him and taken him to jail because he would still at least be alive in his life. This would be a speed bump in the journey of life. But now he's gone forever. And so that may have been the first seed that was planted for me to get in law enforcement, was that. And then, of course, the relationship with my friends who got into it. And I saw some of the things that appealed to me as a young man. And so that's how I got started.
So you're like 15, 16 years old,
Mm-hmm.
and it's late, you guys are out, you're having a good time, and then all of a sudden it goes to not a good time.
Yeah, we had traveled to Lubbock to see some girls. And
was about a
yeah,
girl,
can you
right?
imagine that? And so really pretty innocent. We went up, they were in band, and we went up and visited with them. And so we were driving back that late that night. And so we were just driving, and we weren't drinking or anything like that. And so we observed the vehicle off to our left and pulled over to investigate. And it turned out to be somebody we knew.
One of those pivotal moments in that, and do you think that from that time on, you said that the other guy, the individual that you knew and had known that, you're thrust into this
Yeah.
at a young age,
Yeah.
did that give you a strong feeling of like wanting to make sure this didn't happen to somebody else?
Absolutely. And, I often thought, I was a policeman for a while at the city of Big Spring, and then, of course, Texas Department of Public Safety. I was a highway patrolman for a while, and I always had a strong conviction for my DWI enforcement. And I always felt like, when you made a DWI arrest, you were potentially saving 1, 2, or 3 lives.
Right.
So that's the way I looked at it. And I think whatever your duties are, whether it's a first line patrolman or the head of the agency, as such as yourself, you identify areas that that need to be done, and you recognize the importance of those, and that helps you achieve those goals, get those things done, get them clicked off, and move on to the next thing.
Do you think that that's being thrust into that situation at that age, that helped give you more drive towards public safety, like wanting to serve people? And I know you said you had the roots in business and whatnot, and that itself is big. But what do you think that driving force was, the service aspect of it?
I think that was probably the beginning of it, and then as I never liked it when people were victimized, whether it's bullying at school or somebody stole somebody's property. I never liked it when stronger people took advantage of weaker people, or dishonest people took advantage of honest people. It always kind of galled me when that happened.
Stuck in your
So
craw.
yeah, so I think a lot of policemen probably have that in their DNA.
And so you decide, hey, this is what I want to do. You get hired at Big Spring Police Department.
Yes.
And how long did you do there?
Oh, well, I think it was between 4 and 5 years.
Okay.
I think it was 89 to 94, so I guess 5 years. So did some patrol time and some detective time there, and that was my first exposure into criminal investigations.
So you're a young man, you get thrust into an investigative role, and Big Spring has notoriously had some higher crime than some cities that size.
We did. I remember when I was in CID, which is Criminal Investigation Division. One year we had 16 homicides.
Wow.
And this would have been in 92 or 1993. And so, it's funny, and you and I, especially me, maybe more than you, but you look back to these earlier experiences that you went through, and you didn't realize how much they were preparing you for your future roles.
Right.
Yeah, and the groundwork it was laying. So,
Well, which I think would be fundamental to what would make somebody a great investigator at that young age, being thrust into it, that everything seems like God had a plan for you and a purpose, and you were just landing right where you needed to be.
a lot of times you're in those places, it doesn't feel like the right place, but you just have to have faith that it is, and do your best and keep going.
That's an interesting point there. Well, on that, do you think that, can you expand upon that, like saying like the difficult times that sometimes you experience in life, you just preface that it helped develop you for the things you couldn't see.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe to the viewers or somebody watching on listening on podcast or something, expand on how that shaped and molded you. That sometimes we feel like that those troublesome times we just want to get out of.
Well, some of I certainly do, and I can remember, there's several ways to look at it. One thing about when you work for the state, or at least historically, is that when you promoted, you would move, and so your family would either move with you or you'd live apart. And so due to our circumstances, we lived apart for about 4 years, and I think in my first 8 or 9 years of marriage, we were apart 6 years.
Wow.
And so, you struggle with that because when you're at work, you feel like you should be at home. When you're at home, you feel like you should be at work.
Yeah.
And so you're always torn, and you're always on the road, and there's always duties waiting for you wherever you arrive. I remember cases in Brownwood. When my first duty station as Ranger was in Brownwood, 4 years. And I had what I thought was big cases then. One was a Holly Automotive case. It was a fraud case. And really started with one insurance policy. It ended up, Holly Automotive was the oldest, or one of the oldest car dealerships in Texas.
Oh, wow.
And so I think the case ended up with 17 different complainants, 170 different violations of fraud.
Wow.
And then I can't remember how many defendants, but it was a huge case for me. We actually had the FBI. I went in with the FBI, and we seized a lot of computers in the dealership. The dealership, we arrested the owner, or the third generation owner, actually.
Yes, sir.
The dealership later sold to a dealership out of Stephenville, Bruner.
Yeah.
It is that today.
Down the road.
But, it was kind of a complex investigation. And I thought to myself, this is overwhelming. This will be the most complex case I'll ever have. But really and truly, it's not. It just kind of sets the table for your next big case, which we had some cases later here in San Angelo that dwarfed that one, but it kind of prepares you for it.
Yeah, it's almost kind of like a fitness plan, right?
It is.
Like the more that you just be consistent in your abilities and be diligent with what God's given you, the more that you're able to be prepared for the next step.
Yeah, and I think set reasonable goals, every day of what you want to achieve, and as long as you're going forward and making progress, it's going to work out in the end.
Which is somebody that's great advice for somebody that's out there listening, maybe getting into law enforcement, or they've got a career or whatever that they're about to get into, is that in your situation, you started off, you felt like this is where you wanted to go. You start and you go to Big Spring, and then from Big Spring, you go to Texas Highway Patrol. From Texas Highway Patrol, how long did you spend as a road troop?
4 years as a road troop, and then 4 years as a patrol sergeant.
Okay.
So 8 years into my DPS career.
And then you get selected for a very, it's not only is it prestigious, right? But it's high end work that you're doing. Like you have to be a cut above the average person to be working in these high level investigations. It's a harder selection process. We can talk about that.
Well, it's competitive, and so I just think you have to be willing to work harder than maybe others. Is where I'd set the standard. I never really thought I was smarter than anybody. I just always knew that I could not be very smart, but work harder and make up for it. So that was always my mindset.
Yeah, which that makes sense, because everything that you've done to step forward is that you just continue to want to improve yourself and constantly strive to be better than you were, something like the day before. So your first duty station is that as a Texas Ranger. So you're newly minted. Where are you landing at?
Brownwood. Went to Brownwood, Texas.
Brownwood, Texas.
Followed
home of Underwoods.
Yeah, followed a ranger there. His name was Bobby Grubbs, and he had retired and actually ran for sheriff within the year and became elected. So that helped segue my acceptance into the sheriff's office over there. And so I worked a lot in the police department also. So I worked a lot of cases over there, and it was good people. And I loved, I really did. I have an affinity for the folks in Brownwood. But my family was here. My wife and kids were here. And so this is where we wanted to be. And God opened that door and came here as actually the cold case ranger for a few months.
Oh.
Yep. In 07, September 1st, 07. And then in 08, the FLDS case hit in April of 2008. And shortly thereafter, they moved me from I kept the cold case duties, but started working active cases, including the FLDS cases.
And that one ended up being, so the FLDS ended up being kind of like one that you're pretty well known for. You've probably done a lot of interviews on that. We don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole, but you want to just kind of let the audience know what that is about in a succinct way?
Well, succinct is a good word for that. You know, it's just a religious organization, a spinoff of the Mormon Church that still wanted to practice polygamy. And once practicing polygamy, they began to engage in underage marriages with one specific leader, which was Warren Jeffs. He was known as the prophet, and he was the God's figurehead on earth in their eyes and the leader of their church. And actually, he was a pedophile, and he used his position and his power and his influence. He was a master manipulator, and so he became he actually was on FBI's 10 most wanted list at one point. And so once we recognized that there was potentially some crimes going on down in the county south of Slacker County, the state and Slacker County and several other agencies, Texas Attorney General's office launched an investigation and started in April of 2008. And I think my last trial was 2019 in Canada.
Yeah.
So it really went, it was a big case, no doubt.
All across North America.
It did.
Yeah. And we had Lieutenant Les Bird on our last episode, and he was talking about how the logistics of him trying to run from the city side, how many people from the FLDS were having to be taken care of and kind of segregated, if you will, through that time frame.
You know, that's one interesting part about it is that in this community, it's starting to age a little bit now. I guess it's been 15, 16, 17 years.
Yeah.
But so many people had a role. And so they'll tell you, oh, you know, I was here and, you know, I was over here working on the equipment, or I was providing the food, or I was volunteering at this church. The whole community was pretty well invested in it, even though it happened one county south of us.
Yeah. What do you think makes Nick, right? You know, what is at the core of not necessarily Ranger Hanna or Sheriff Hanna, but what do you think? What are you about?
You know, I think really keeping things pretty simple and keeping your priorities in order, or makes, you know, it's kind of keeps me centered. I have a strong Christian faith, and my family, I share that with our family. We do spend a lot of family time together, and a lot of my free time is dedicated to family. There's some other things we do, but so, you know, faith and family, I'm probably really not different than a lot of folks who may be listening to this podcast. If you have a strong marriage and, you know, your spouse sometimes will let you know when you're getting off track, or when you need to be a little more humble about something. And that really goes both ways sometimes. So, I think just my strongest strength, if it was an asset, would be, I think, have a good work ethic and relate to others and care about each other. And I'll tell you another thing, Chief, is growing up in a small community where everybody knows everybody, and you treat everybody a certain way. And San Angelo has that in its fabric, in its DNA. Is you see people, you care about them. You run into them at the grocery store. You see them visiting folks at the hospital. You know, we've got a friend in the hospital today. We talked about that. But it's just, you know, caring about others and being part of a community, and recognizing that we're all in this world for a limited amount of time. And so don't waste a day of it.
Yeah, that is solid. So like, not guaranteed tomorrow. Yeah, that you don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. Today might be good, and tomorrow might not, and to be okay with that. So
it's expected.
Yeah. So like you talked about family and having a good working relationship with your spouse, and them keeping that in itself. Sometimes I think we can kind of get on where it's a what can you do for me type relationships, but it sounds like what I'm listening to, and if you want to expand about it a little bit, it's a two-way street, that the byproduct happens to be that some needs get met and some things like that, but them helping stay on track. You want to touch on that at all?
You know, I think it's, you know, what was it, Proverbs 27:17, iron sharpens iron. And I think our marriages are like that too.
Yeah.
And you recognize that, hey, she's not perfect and I'm not perfect. And as long as you do what you do in love and whether it's raising your kids or paying your bills or doing your financial planning or painting a room, you do those things together. And my dad had a rule, and I don't know how this fits in there, but when you have a friend, a lunch friend, and y'all go out and eat, well, you make sure you buy one more time than you have to. Marriage is like that. You do one more than you think you should.
Yeah.
And so things will work out when you give a little more than you take.
So that goes back to like service, and it sounds like that's been the reoccurring theme in regards to kind of our conversation here, is that you believe in serving others, and you believe being humble. For somebody that has had the career that you've had, that has investigated as many homicide, major cases, and stuff that's taken you all across the different countries, for that matter, that you could be somebody that kind of pounds their chest, but you don't. And I think that's super important. And I think that's also what makes you has made you successful.
Well, I think, I see that in you, Travis. I think when you recognize that people are more interested in the service you're providing today, or your efforts that you're in the best interest, they put far more stock in what you're doing today than what you've done in the past. That's what's that old saying about the windshield being much bigger than the rearview mirror.
Oh, yeah.
Keep looking through the windshield.
That's well said, and thank you. I've had a good models to look at there.
I appreciate that.
The future for is not set, right? And we're not asking for anything as to what you're going to do or not do, but like, what do you think the future of Tom Green County? Like, what do you see with your department? What are things that you want to see happen? Because you've gone through, you went and did. What was your total time you did with as a ranger? I didn't get that.
I think it was let me think, nearly 18 years. I think so. Yeah.
18 years, and then you transitioned it over to the sheriff's department, and then ran for office. Man, as somebody that has also ran for office,
Yeah.
I want to say thank you for putting yourself out there, because it's difficult to do. And I remember some of your debates when you first ran. Thankfully, you ran unopposed this last time. Right?
That's true.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
But the first time you went, there's a lot of hard things that you have to try to find a way to sell yourself, but not, and be humble in that. Do you want to touch on that a little bit?
Oh, that is a delicate balance, and it kind of goes against your nature as a public service. I'm sure you experienced that, but it's hard to convey the message you want to convey. You want to convey a message of confidence and leadership, and what's the best predictor of the future is you look upon the past.
Yeah.
And so I think you do have a little bit of a license to say, okay, let's look at what's where we've been in the past and how we performed in the past. And you just ask the public to reflect back onto those situations, and they can be the judge of how things worked out or how they didn't work out.
Yeah.
And I think that's just a part of it. It's kind of every coin has two sides. And so it is a delicate balance. And then the way you treat your opponent, there may be times that you want to, maybe you have some knowledge that you just don't want to, you like not to share it.
Yeah.
And so I think that, and I think I got that from Joe Hunt. He told me, I remember him saying that he wasn't going to engage in any mudslinging. And from your campaign, I don't remember anything like that. And as far as coming from you. And so that was kind of my baseline when I ran. And I just thought it would work out, and it did.
Yeah.
And as far as my vision for the future of the sheriff's office, one of the things I've been, I guess, proud of so far is I think we have a strong identity as an agency. And I think the folks that work there feel good about representing the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office. I think they're proud of the work we've done. There's some specific areas I could point to, but overall, I think really good people, when you just have people, and sometimes I'm just amazed that they've shown up and that they're doing work. And sometimes, I don't know about you, but sometimes I look and I'm like, this person works for me and I couldn't do their job. That happens. Maybe you ever been in dispatch? Golly, those guys are amazing. Or even your clerks. I walk in and they've got 4 screens going, and they got civil stuff and criminal stuff and answering the phone and answering. And I'm like, good night. I probably should stick to parking cars in the parking lot with it. But I think if you the key is you just appreciate those people and
Yeah.
let them know and write them a sticky note. You're doing a great job, or man, appreciate you guys, or bring them coffee, little acts of service, and you recognize people and appreciate them. They just go to the wall for you and do a great job, and then they go to the wall for your agency, and it's good for the community, good for schools, good for San Angelo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have like a leadership philosophy that you go by? Is there something that in the way that you lead? Is there a way that you can define that in a way that helps somebody that's maybe a new leader out there that might be listening or watching?
So experience has taught me that not to react when I think I know the answer immediately. And I have what's called a rule of 48. If something really aggravates me, I wait 48 hours and I study it, pray about it, think about it before I respond.
Okay.
And I always want to put the public first, and then I want to put our employee next, and then the agency as a whole. Well, perhaps the agency is first, but the employee has such precedent that it reflects on the agency. So I always want to put great importance on how we treat our employees. And so my philosophy is just to lead by example, to treat others like they would want to be treated, and for the public to have confidence in us that we're going to get the job done. We've had some cases, and I won't go into specifics, but I know the complainants express their concerns about our ability to complete the investigation, and we have done those investigations successfully. And so when you do that, you get credibility. When you have credibility, then your standing in the public eye is cemented. And I think you can feel like when you go home at the end of the day, you've done a good job, and the public knows you're going to keep them safe.
Yeah, and that's thank you. That's well said. And I was listening to you say that, and it reminded me of something that I was reading today that is talking about what is honor, what is being honorable, right? And a definition that was a very succinct way of putting it was to think of it as earning earning it through consistent action, fair action, right?
Yeah.
That in that sense, that what you're saying is, even as a leader, that you're doing that in a very consistent manner, right? That has purpose and some intent is behind it.
Yes.
To show here's who you have a priority list, and then conducting your business, if you will, your actions based on what is best in that priority list.
Yes. And really and truly, what's best for you is not a factor. You personally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that speaks to who you are as a leader.
Right.
Because there's lots of people that hold leadership positions that are not truly leading.
And that's what's frustrating. You see some of the things that go on around the country, and you're wondering why isn't leadership standing up and putting a stop to some of these things or taking some action rather than endorsing it and becoming part of the problem. But that's more of a national political comment than a local San Angelo
club, bigger than our little round table right here.
Yeah. Maybe where we're supposed to be.
Right. Well, hey, as we start to kind of wrap up here, I just want to say that I've appreciated our relationship as I've moved into my new role, and what you do for our community. I really think that people will appreciate just kind of hearing a little bit more. We've known about Ranger Hanna, we've known about Sheriff Hanna, but like getting to see you a little bit more beyond the badge, right?
Well, and I remember walking into church and telling you years ago that you were going to be chief of police. And I'm probably not the first person to say that, but you probably heard that way back then. But
by the grace of God and a wonderful team, and that's where I'm at. And as long as I stay that way, that's where we're going to land.
Yeah. No, we value I think our relationship with the police department is better than it's probably ever been. We've been on some scenes together, and I have great confidence in your guys, and your guys have confidence in ours, I can tell. And I like watching them work together and interact. And I think that's what the public expects, and I know that the public probably feels good about it. And so at the end of the day,
I mean, we can go down a little bit of the road, at least talking about like more of a national issue. That doesn't always happen that way, right? And in lots of places, even in Texas, we see issues between agencies that should be serving their public as priority on that list, right?
Yes, yeah. Unfortunately, that can happen, and you see it in all parts of Texas. But I think when you're you have humble leadership, and you don't care who gets the credit. I think Ronald Reagan said, how much could we get done if nobody cares who gets the credit?
Right. Yeah. Put the ego in the back seat and let's drive.
Because it really doesn't matter at the end of the day.
Yeah. Well, hey, do you have any last, we've gone through and kind of just talked about a little bit about you and what you've been and where you're at and family, your faith. Anything that you want to kind of wrap up that ties a bow on who is Nick Hanna?
Well, I don't know that there's a bow there to be tied. I'm just glad to be called to come to work every day, and I'm grateful that I have the team we have at the sheriff's office, and that we work so well with our partner agencies such as y'all, and even the constables. We're just going to keep working hard. We're going to stay humble. Sometimes you've got to understand that the wheels of justice they turn slowly, and you may report something and want it fixed that day. I understand that, but sometimes that's just not how it works.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you'll just have confidence that things are going to work out, and we're going to put our nose to the grindstone, and we're going to investigate the case until we've exhausted everything and can't do anything with it, or we'll present it just like other agencies. We'll present it to the prosecutor, whether it's the local DA's office or the Texas Attorney General or some of our federal prosecutors.
Mm-hmm.
People don't realize we have a lot of different cases, different types of cases that require different prosecutors, just as y'all do. So we're going to show up every day. We're going to be there, and when you call, we're going to come and running. So
there you go.
I appreciate you, Chief.
That's that consistency in leadership and action that we've seen from you throughout your career, whether that be as a ranger or as a trooper, as an officer, or right back to being the head of law enforcement for the county. So
I'm going to hopefully keep doing it for a good long time to come.
And we hope that see that too. Want to thank you for being on the show today, and want to thank you guys out there for watching and listening. If you're on a podcast, thank you so much. We hope you'll see us again next time on Beyond the Badge.